Hello and welcome back to my spontaneous adventure to Atlanta, Georgia. Here I just got off the airplane and rode the MARTA to the Hilton Atlanta where I was staying. The lobby was really beautiful and nice, and here is a mini tour of my hotel room. Love the bathroom, how clean everything was, and of course the beautiful view. Such a beautiful, sunny, blue sky day, and there was even a basketball court on the building next door. I then took a walk downtown, and there were these very interesting sculptures by the side of the road. Loved the skyline in the distance, and this was the Emory University area. There was also a playground area and very colorful windmills, and in the distance, even a church and some skyscrapers. I then went and grabbed a ride at the ride pickup station. It had a very interesting name called Kiss and Ride, but it was essentially where the Lyfts and Ubers picked you up, and then I went to Koreatown. My first stop was the newly opened Kinokuniya Japanese bookstore in the Johns Creek neighborhood. It was really cool to go in here because it just opened in June 2023, so everything was brand new, and they were even setting up some of the aisles and shelves. I think it was really fun that there were so many dolls and little gadgets everywhere, and the manga even had both Japanese and English translations. One wall was completely dedicated to school supplies such as calligraphy, pencil cases, and notebooks, as well as cards, and I thought it was really fun. And my personal favorite section was all the plushies. I then stopped by the H Mart right next door. Loved H Mart's, so much variety of foods, and of course it featured a French bakery, one of my favorites, Tours Les Jours. And because it was 85 degrees outside, I grabbed a quick boba drink from the Pearls Tea Place right next door, and then caught a ride to go to the Duluth main area. Here is the K-pop store that I ended up in. So much merchandise, there was CDs and posters everywhere, and there was even a little contest to guess the idol just based off of their eyes, their nose, and their mouth shape. I got hungry and ended up eating at the EQ Revolving Sushi BBQ. It was unlimited sushi and barbecue steak, all you can eat, and it was absolutely delicious, and loved the revolving aspect. And then I drove back into the city, followed by a light stroll through the city to digest my dinner. I walked by the Westin and got to enjoy all the city views and sounds and sights, and there was even a Ferris wheel in the background. There were many peculiar things such as this horse-drawn carriage, and I loved the concept on the side of this building. It was so fun. Of course, walked by the humongous flat screen TV next to the CNN building, and really got to admire the CNN building from the hotel across the street from it. I got to go inside the hotel and really explore. It was super fancy. Loved the setup. It was just beautifully furnished, and you got to see a really good view of the Mercedes-Benz Stadium and the CNN building in the distance. Absolutely loved the Atlanta night scene and the skyline. And in the very far distance, I got to see the Coca-Cola building. I was very surprised, though, that there weren't that many people on the rooftop because this was the Glen Hotel and it was a Friday night, but more space for me to relax, I guess. I then took a stroll to the Ferris wheel, very stunning and beautiful. Sadly, it was a little too expensive, so I chose not to go up, but I did enjoy the lights changing and got to see the Olympic rings in Centennial Olympic Park from when Atlanta hosted the Olympics in 1996. Here's a quick snip of me coming back to the park the very next day, bright and early, and then proceeding to Georgia Aquarium. I walked by the World of Coca-Cola, which I actually went to later on in the afternoon, but first off, I went to the Georgia Aquarium. I started my visit by looking at the Predators of the Deep gallery. It was really fun to see all the different types of sharks here. The main ones I saw were the hammerhead, shark as well as the silver tip shark, but there were also the tiger shark and sand tiger shark in the exhibit as well. The really cool thing was that this exhibit is actually one of the largest ones and most dynamic ones in North America, featuring sharks. But sadly, as is true in the wild, many of the sharks are endangered because of the fact of overfishing, habitat loss, marine pollution, and climate change. And I found it really nice to learn about all of this. And a really cool part was to see when the colony of fish all came together, it almost looked like a tornado. And this was actually my favorite part of the whole exhibit. There was a section where you got to go in and really see the fish swimming above you and the sharks as well. And it just really was cool to see them all come together, and I really felt like I was immersed in the ocean. I then went into the penguin exhibit. It was really fun to crawl under the tunnel and really feel that I was immersed amongst all the penguins. So I got to stand in these little tunnels and got to really just like be face to face with all the penguins. My favorite part was definitely the beluga whales. Very fun, and they were just playing around and so playful. Absolutely love them, and just so peaceful to watch them swim around in the water. In the next exhibit, I saw a real-life mock skeleton of a whale, and it was shocking to see the size of the people compared to the whale. And then I saw the real whales swimming in the tanks next door. It was so relaxing to see them just swimming about, and it was just shocking to see their large size in the water. I really thought this exhibit was cool because it was like a shipwreck, and you were underwater being immersed amongst fish. And then I moved on to the tropical dive exhibit. This had a very cool volcanic theme, and it housed the neon fish and reminded me a lot of Finding Nemo and Finding Dory. There were so many different types of creatures, and I thought this was really fun because the eel almost looked like it was looking at me, and I really thought there was such attention to detail in all the tanks, in particular this one because it was a pipe theme. And then I moved on to the Ocean Voyager exhibit that was built by Home Depot. It housed so many of the fish, and I really liked the jellyfish here. They were so adorable and absolutely so cute. And then I moved on to look at their grandparents. These versions of jellyfish had a lot longer tails, and they were a little bit larger in size, but it was just so mesmerizing watching them as they swam in the water. It just looked like strings everywhere. The smaller ones were moon jelly, and the larger ones were the Pacific sea nettle. I then saw more of the neon fish, and these were the clownfish that really reminded me of Finding Nemo. I know I've said this 3 times already, but this was my actual favorite part of the entire exhibit, was the dolphin show. The dolphins were so well trained, and it was absolutely so fun to watch them play around with their trainers and all the different tricks that they would do. And I definitely felt their energy and their hyperactivity, and it really energized me during a kind of more tiring and lull of the day. I then followed up with a visit to the dolphin-specific exhibit just to get a closer look at them, and it was very fun to see them in their aquarium, especially the dolphins just swimming around, circling, and just like playing around, and I thought it was like so cute. I then exited the Dolphin Coast and went to watch the sea lion show. This was a much more savannah and like southern style, and I really thought it was fun that there were different themes everywhere. I thought it was really nice that all of the shows have 30-minute intervals, and so there's a lot in case you missed one. And again, similar to the dolphin show, I made sure I didn't sit in the first 2 rows just so I wouldn't get in the splash zone. And then to continue on with the savannah theme, I got to look at the crocodiles and the alligators, and it was just so cool to see all of them. And then I exited my trip from the aquarium and got to walk around the park. On the other side, shockingly, was the Coca-Cola Museum. Luckily, I had booked a ticket in advance earlier that morning, and so all I had to do was get in line and continue my adventure into the museum, which I was very happy about because it gave me a reprieve from the 89-degree weather outside. And just stepping into the museum was so overwhelming. The first stop I made was to the vault. This housed the secret formula for Coca-Cola. So, ta-da! This is the secret. And now, my big question is, what is in it? Now we're getting closer as we venture closer to the formula and the vault it's stored in. I got to see the kind of history of Coca-Cola and the formula and how it has evolved over time, where it started. These are different wheels showing how the taste was configured, and this was just showing the different little facts about who started it, where the Coca-Cola syrup was from, and the basis for why the barrels are actually red. And at the time, I thought it was kind of interesting. It also had a kind of simulation showing if the different bottles were an imitation or they were the real deal, because during the time when Coca-Cola became immediately famous and popular, a lot of other brands are trying to steal their formula or trying to replicate it, and now we're getting even closer to the secret. I'm so excited and hyped. But before that, a little brief history on Coca-Cola, and it was actually used as collateral for a loan. And it was finally brought home by train by the Coca-Cola president, Robert Woodruff. And a portion of it has been locked in this vault ever since. As I got closer to the vault holding the secret formula, I felt the security amp up, and it really seemed as if I was actually breaking into a vault. And the vault even had a hand scanner, which very high tech. And I thought it was interesting to find out that the higher ups in the company don't even have all the formula, just to ensure that no one person has it all. The formula is split up into separate vaults, so each executive only has the key and access to one portion of the formula. Very secretive, love that. And then I moved on to the next exhibit that really showcased the history and the commercialization of Coca-Cola. This one was showing the different kinds of bottles it had, and it used to only be costing a few cents. There was lots of Coca-Cola branded items, including this car and these different glasses, as well as different distribution and machines in different countries. And I thought it was really interesting to see the international aspect of Coca-Cola, as well as how it has grown and expanded all across the world and become a fan favorite. A unique fun fact I actually learned was that Mexico is actually the greatest consumer of Coca-Cola products and not the US, which I thought kind of interesting because obviously the headquarters is in Atlanta, Georgia, and the headquarters of its personal bottling company is in Charlotte, North Carolina. So you would think that it would be in the US, but telling you, it's not. I thought it was cool that this wall showed all the different products that Coca-Cola owns and has developed over the years. It's just so massive. Like there was Fanta, there was Mountain Dew, and I was like, I didn't even know they were owned by Coca-Cola. After viewing everything on the first floor, I moved on to the second floor.
Clever, natural flavors.
This short film really captured what made Coca-Cola so unique and special. After, I saw that there was a photo shoot going on with the mascot polar bear, which has been a constant in their advertising since 1922, but sadly got phased out later on. But that doesn't mean they don't still support the World Wildlife Fund. The next place I ventured into was the pop culture section. This one had a lot of pop-up art and local artists everywhere advertising and showcasing Coca-Cola in their artwork. It was super cool and very colorful and very bright, which I really appreciated. I even had the option to make my own bottle art and design. Some of the ones showcasing here were so good. And then I also saw some other Coca-Cola creations. People made a robot, this person made a lizard and birdhouses. It was just so innovative and imaginative what everybody was doing. There was even advertising with St. Nicholas. The next place I went to was the Scent Discovery Lab. This section was one of my favorites in the whole museum because I love the scents and smells. And it was really cool because you got to sniff them and then turn them around and kind of guess what they are. So there were spicy smells, they were floral, and it was just all around a great time. And the last place I went to was the drink and taste section. This part featured all the different drinks that I mentioned before Coca-Cola owns, including Fanta and Mountain Dew, Minute Maid, and all the different flavors were actually specific to different regions of the world. So you really got to try from like North America, from India, Mexico, and it was kind of unique that for each specific region, there was a different kind of palette for the customers, obviously, and Coca-Cola matched that as best as they could. And of course, I had to end with a trip to the gift shop. There was so much merchandise featuring Coca-Cola, and the gift store was massive. There were t-shirts and keychains. There was even like pens and notebooks and hats. And I just felt completely overwhelmed with all the Coca-Cola merchandise. And that's a wrap for my trip. Thank you for joining me on my adventure to Atlanta, Georgia.